anything. And a 155 millimeter howitzer, which was the biggest thing we had in the field at the time, went off. I fell back off of that right into that 6 or 8 inches of mud. I was cold, I was mad, I was angry at myself and the world, and especially that damn gun. We were finally joined with the rest of our unit up in Anzio. And while I was at Casino, I stood and watched the first 1,000-plane raid that blasted Casino. That was the first time that the Allies had been able to put together 1,000 planes at one time in one effort. Of course, it became common after that.
Yes.
But from there we went up to Anzio, and being engineers, we had dozers, and we had a deluxe pad underneath the ground. Running lights, everything. Everything. We had electricity, radios. Of course, you didn't stick your head above ground too much, because there was no part of the beachhead at Anzio that could not be reached with a little 37 millimeter gun. And we had Anzio Anti that came through, and it was 170 millimeter.
And that was the one on the railroad track,
That was on the railroad track.
And that was a German gun that was
parked back up in the hills.
Yes.
in a cave. They roll it out and shoot. Mainly it sailed over the town of Anzio and went into the harbor.
Yes.
And the ships in there offloading with the little army ducks, the floating vehicles, you know. It would hit some of those. Or one of them come in just, and this first time I ever heard a sonic boom. The shell was so loud that it gave you just a lightning thunderclap, and that was scary. On the breakout, I was assigned to an engineer armored tank battalion to be their engineer support, and in clearing a minefield which had stopped the tanks from supporting the infantry, my platoon sergeant and I did action in the minefield and removing the mines. That got me my first Silver Star.
And the Silver Star, the folks listening to this may not understand what that means. The Silver Star is the third highest.
It's the third highest decoration for valor
Sure.
that you can get.
Sure.
And, we both, and he subsequently received a battlefield commission from that.
Your sergeant did. Okay. You
That
were already a
yeah.
lieutenant at this
Yes,
point.
I was a second lieutenant.
Yeah.
Thought I'd stay that way forever. And we were on the breakout from Anzio, and we were some of the first troops in Rome. For the first time in the history of Rome, troops took the city from the south. But of course the Germans had pulled back and more or less declared it an open city.
Yes.
So that we found no resistance. My job was to inspect the 5 bridges over the Tiber in Rome. And I put an Italian-speaking GI in my Jeep with me, and he knew no more about Rome than I did. But we found a Carabinieri, a policeman, that of course knew the city. Put him in the Jeep to show us the 5 bridges. And of course they had not mined or put any demolitions around any of the bridges in Rome. But we finished this assignment at daylight, and we wound up right across the street from the Colosseum and broke out our little Coleman stoves and started eating breakfast.
Did you actually go into the Colosseum?
Oh yes, yes indeed.
You weren't going to miss that opportunity.
No. And I went back to Rome 2 or 3 times, and I was able to explore it more in detail later.
What was your impression about the Colosseum? What if you can remember what it was like? What did you think when you saw it?
2 things.
All right.
The smell of urine.
Typical for Europe, right?
Yeah. And you could stand up in the Colosseum. And of course the floors aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
They were wood floors, and deteriorated and degenerated over the centuries. And you can see the cells, but you could also see the Christians in your mind and the lines coming through. It would just be so plain to you that you could see that instant. And it was a sobering effect. And we, a little later on, visited the catacombs below them, where the Christians that were killed in the Colosseum were buried. They were taken down into tunnels, and little grave sites were hollowed out in the sides of the caves. Caves very narrow.
Now you have pictures, still pictures, black and white photos in albums of those.
I do somewhere.
I believe Paul has those.
Probably so.
Okay.
I don't have any of my wartime albums with me. I don't think. And Paul has them in storage down in St. Petersburg.
Yes.
But yes, I do have pictures of all that. I had a picture one time of Mussolini and Clara Petacci, his girlfriend, after they had been hung.
Yes.
But I don't know what happened to that picture. But it was an actual picture. It was not a reproduction. It was an actual photograph. Now, I didn't see it. I got it off some other soldier that did see it. But on up the peninsula of Italy, as time went on, in 1944, we had progressed up the peninsula, and in the process I picked up my second Silver Star. Again, in a mine action. I always got in trouble in mines. And my first Purple Heart that day. The two came together in the one action. I was injured getting up to the site, and then completed the activity that would have made the commander of the unit recommend me for subsequent service.
How were you injured?
The only thing that I can reasonably and logically think is I had been called by the column commander to report to his Jeep up front. And I got in my Jeep, and surprisingly an infantry lieutenant said, "Do you mind if I go along?" I said, "No." And we had moved hardly, just the Jeep was in gear, and a shell came in, and the only thing I know that it hit the shoulder of the ditch and deflected away from us. But the concussion knocked us all out of the Jeep, and I must have snagged, it lifted this part of the hand up completely. I didn't do it but put a Band-Aid on it for several days until it began to get infected, and I had to go to the battalion aid station, and they stitched it up for me.
Even after several days?
Yeah. Things were quite
different.
I remember while I was at casino, a traveling dentist would come around and inspect everybody's teeth, and invariably I'd have cavities. Well, he had a drill there that it was a treadle type thing, like an old Singer sewing machine, and never went very fast because he never could get up the energy. And he would have that drill go, I'd faint every time.
Did he use morphine or Novocaine?
No. That stuff.
You didn't have anything, did you?
I didn't have nothing.
Okay, so your shell explodes, knocks you out of the Jeep. You get back in. Did you make it back up?
Well, the lieutenant said, "If you don't mind, I think I'll try to walk from here on out."
It wasn't your driving; it was just their shooting.
So I said, "I think I'll join you." So we walked up about half a mile to where the battalion, the column commander was, and he told us what needed to be done, which essentially it was a little country crossroads. And in this part of Italy is quite mountainous, and it was, of course, going down the hill. And the Germans had mined the four sections of the crossroad. And it was our job as engineers to remove any mine obstacles there might be. And we did that, but the thing was, across a little water